Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my channel if it's your first time here. I hope you enjoy this video and the others on my channel. Today, tomato relish, going to make from homegrown tomatoes. I'll put a link in the description if you want to see how I grow the tomatoes. Had a good crop this year. I think the weather in the UK has really helped, and it's my first time making a tomato relish. I did tomato ketchup last year with homegrown tomatoes. I'll also put that video in the description as well if you want to have a look at it. So let's get started. It's a reasonably simple process to do. It's just one's got to be mothered and watched and kept an eye on. So let's get started with the first stage. So we've got a bowl of boiling water here, and we're just going to place our tomatoes into the boiling water. And then what we're going to do is, after that, we're going to just leave them in there for 2 minutes. And then we'll drain the water off, and then let them cool for a little bit, and then the skins should easily come off. I've got 1 kilogram of tomatoes here, homegrown tomatoes. There's various sizes there. We're just going to chop them all in. And this will fill about 3 jars, but obviously depending on, you can adjust the quantity for how many you have or how much you want to make. So we're just going to put all them in and let them just sit there for about 2 minutes. So all the tomatoes are now in the boiling water. We're just going to let them sit there for 2 minutes, and then we can let them cool and peel the skins off after that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add them to a dish with some chopped onion and sprinkle over some salt, and then we're going to leave that at room temperature overnight. So the tomatoes have been sitting in the water for about 2 minutes. Just drained the boiling water off, and then let them cool for a bit, so we can handle them and start to peel them. Once we've peeled them, we will then chop them. So just gonna, skins should peel off quite easy because now they've been sitting in the boiling water. If you're using smaller tomatoes like cherry tomatoes, should come away a lot easier. So we're just gonna peel all them off. So I've taken all the skins off the tomatoes. If you find it tricky to get the first bit of skin off, just make a little incision with a knife, and then you should find that it makes it easier to peel the skin away. So what we're going to do now is we're going to chop them up, and then we're going to put them in our dish. We've just got 2 chopped onions here. So we're just going to chop the tomatoes all into, the bigger ones into quarters, and then we're just going to put them in with the onion. And then what we're going to do after that is we're just going to sprinkle with 2 tablespoons of salt. So just place your chopped tomatoes randomly in with the onions. And these are cooled down nicely now, so they're easy to handle. So as you can see, all the tomatoes have now been chopped. I've just mixed them a little bit with the onions. We're now just going to sprinkle 2 tablespoons of salt over them. And then we're going to leave that overnight. We're just going to put a clean tea towel over the top. Just give that a good sprinkling. And then that would draw out the moisture, and then what we'll do in the morning is we will drain any liquid off, and then we'll move on to the next stage. Just sprinkle the salt over. Just using normal table salt. And there we go, that's about it. And then we're just going to put the tea towel over the top, and then we'll leave that overnight, just outside at room temperature. You don't need to put it in the fridge. Okay, and then we'll move on to the next stage. So we've left the tomato and onion mixture overnight, and we're just going to take that off. And what we're going to do is we're going to drain off any liquid. As you can see, there's quite a bit formed in there, so we're going to drain it off, and then we're going to put the onion and the tomato into a saucepan, and then we're going to move on to the next stage. So our onion and tomato mixture that we soaked overnight is now in a saucepan, and then now what we're going to do to that for the next stage is we are going to add 325 grams of caster sugar and 325 milliliters of white vinegar. So in goes the sugar. And then we'll put in our vinegar. And then what we're going to do is we are going to just heat over a medium heat and then stir in to dissolve the sugar. So we'll get this on to medium heat. And then we can start to dissolve the sugar. Just give it a good stir, just to make sure that sugar gets dissolved. So it shouldn't take too long for the sugar to dissolve, just keep an eye on it. And then what we're going to do after that, we're going to bring it to the bowl for 10 minutes and stir occasionally. As you can see that the sugar's more or less dissolving straight away. Just want to make sure that there's none hiding anywhere that we've missed. And making this relish, it's a great, we're going to put it into jars afterwards once we're finished, and it's a great thing to give for a gift, or it's a great thing to make yourself. You know what's going into it, unlike obviously the ones what you buy in a shop. Yes, it takes a little bit of time and effort, but it's rewarding at the end of it, especially when you're using your own homegrown produce like I have done with the tomatoes. So I think the sugar's more or less dissolved now. Can't see any traces in there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to bring it to the bowl for around 10 minutes. So we're just going to increase the heat a little bit. And we'll bring that to the bowl for around 10 minutes and just stir it occasionally, just keeping an eye on it. Because what we want to do is we want to reduce the volume so it ends up to like a jam consistency. We've got a few other ingredients to add once we've completed this stage. So just bring it to the bowl for around 10 minutes and just keep stirring it occasionally. So as you can see, it's now coming up to the bowl. We're just going to let that bowl for 10 minutes and we're just going to stir it occasionally, just keep an eye on it. So you can see anywhere where there's any foam forming, just skim it off with a spoon and just keep an eye on it. Okay, so the mixture's been boiling away for about 10 minutes. I've skimmed any foam off the top, and as you can see, it's reduced down by quite a bit now. You can see where it was originally. So what we're going to do now is the next stage, which in this bowl I've got 2 tablespoons of flour and 1 teaspoon of mustard powder. If you want your relish with more of a kick, you could add some curry powder or some cayenne. And I've just got a bit of vinegar, which we're just going to add. It's 59 millilitres. I'm not going to add it all. I'm just going to add a bit just to, because what we want to do is make a paste. So we're going to add a bit at a time, just to really get a paste. Just give it a stir, and then we're going to add that to our mixture. So you might not need it all. Give that a good stir. And then that will help to thicken the mixture. Yeah, I think actually that's fine, we won't need it all. Right, okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to add that to the saucepan and stir well to combine it. Just add that all in. Okay, give that a good stir. And of course the flour will help to thicken it as well. can already feel it getting a bit thicker. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put it on a simmer, and we're going to leave that for 20 minutes. We're just going to stir from time to time just to make sure the tomatoes are all broken up. So after about 20 minutes it's reduced in volume and it's at the right consistency that we need it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it into a measuring jug, which will just make it easier to pour into the jars. We pour it in while it's hot, and then just let it cool, and then once it's cool you can go into the fridge, pop the lid on, and it will last for about 6 months. So we're just going to pour that into the jug. And then we can just pour it into the jar. And then we can just let that cool. We put it into the fridge. And there we have it, homemade relish. So I've allowed them to cool, and I'm going to put them in the fridge. I've just put a label on, so you know not just what it is, but also of course how long you've got to use it. Like I say, about 6 months in the fridge. You can pick these jars up reasonable from hardware shops. A lot of places do them. They're reasonable to buy, and just remember to sterilize them first before you use them, or if you're, same if you've got your own jars, sterilize them first before you do the recipe. Got a bit extra in here I've let to cool. I'm just going to give it a little taste, see how it's come out. This is my first time making relish, and using homegrown tomatoes of course makes it even more special. So let's see what it's like. I'm hoping it's come out well. The consistency looks good. There's you get the a slight sort of tangy taste to it, then there's a bit of sweetness as well. I'm pleased with how that's come out actually for the first time. Like I said, you can add some spices, some curry powder if you want to make it a bit more stronger. Maybe you want to make it a bit more of a tangy relish. There's all different types that you can try and just experiment with. So I will hope you will give it a go, and let me know how yours come out and what you put in it. And I'll put a link in the description if you want to see about how I grew the tomatoes. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video, and bye for now.